This is our Kundalini Bodywork training in Amsterdam, and although it might look like we're manipulating the energy of somebody's body and forcing energy to rise and ascend before it's ready, I can totally understand why the practice gets this negative perspective, but in reality we're actually learning to do the opposite. We're learning to observe somebody's energy field, and it's all about doing more with less. It's called bodywork in a sense, as we're looking for holding patterns in the body. We're understanding how the body moves when there's trauma and learning to release that trauma into the field so that it can transform. But the main thing we do in that is just to observe. Your body will react very differently when you lay down and do self-practice, which is still possible to activate and achieve a lot of transformation and healing in your energetic field. But when somebody is witnessing you and observing and holding space, the body starts to move in a very different way. And actually giving a session and receiving a session, it's a fine line. The separation between the two really does dissolve away. My job in these trainings is partially just asking people not to move their hands so much and to ascend the energy, because we can get quite carried away that with the more we come into somebody's field and the more we do, their body moves. But the real art of the work is in learning to hold space, is learning to do more with less, and understanding how energy naturally moves and flows through the body, and how emotion is energy, and how those trapped emotions release. What we focus on in level 1 is removing trauma. And when we have trauma in the body hits, it shakes, the energy gets stuck, and this isn't so good for the nervous system. So what we're always doing in Kundalini bodywork, as it's a therapeutic practice, is learning how to come into these emotions and transform them holistically. So by including shadow work, including non-dual psychology, so when energy gets stuck, we don't just move it. We often stop sessions and talk about it in relation to our intention. So the work is very intention-based. And as you can see here, the process of activating somebody is just sitting, is just holding space from that place of emotional integrity with an intention. When we come into the level 2 work, it is slightly different. Then we have to look at this fine line between healing somebody and supporting them to heal themselves. And it certainly is a fine line. But the main difference between level 1 and level 2 is learning to work spiritually. Level 1 is a process of moving from personal development into spiritual development, which is into level 2. And everybody's body moves differently. Don't come to this training because you want your body to move into yoga and mudras. It can completely be a side effect, and the range of experiences is dramatic in these sessions. Some people move a lot, some people heal trauma, and as we're going for 2.5 weeks, you don't want to activate your body everywhere every day in these intense ways. It is an advanced training, and you could call it an intense training, because we are learning to do these practices, so we activate ourselves more than is potentially helpful for a normal person. But because we're doing so much self-development and spiritual practice, it's much safer. You could say there's a price of learning in these trainings, and that's working with so many different people in so many different ways, and then you learn from the information in their field. But if you activate yourself all of the time, you would damage your nervous system, and you'll find people's most expressive sessions where they're going into back bends and they're doing yoga, or they're screaming intensely. Maybe not screaming intensely, that's kind of a side topic, but the sessions where they're very still, where the energy's soft, they're often the most blissful sessions where you realize the most. And we also learn to work in stillness. These videos are great because they grab people's attention, but so much of the work is about stillness. It's about the meditation. You can get into activated states by going into rage, and then you fight through the rage, through your lower chakras, and then you open up and you go into bliss. But we can only really do this so many times for as long as the trauma's real. Otherwise, for me, the work becomes more of an addiction. You're getting addicted to these heightened states. So what we teach is therapy. It's primarily therapy. It's personal development that leads to spiritual development. And I think the work's beautiful, and I completely understand why people think we're doing the opposite of what we're doing, that we're manipulating people's energy fields, that we're forcing Kundalini to rise, and the whole training is absolutely the opposite. We spend a lot of time in shadowwork, looking at the major shadows of money, sex, power, fame, really deep down, what are those driving forces? And we learn that when a lot of people who come to therapy, they want to heal, and in releasing their trauma, they're often the victim. But when you go deeper into shadow work, the people who really need therapy are the people who are doing the crimes, who are collecting the victims, who are hurting people, and they need this work just as much as the people who feel they're victimized and need to forgive are the people who really need forgiveness. And these are some of the big topics we start to look at in the training, and it's all experiential. It's all reflected into yourself, into your own experience of life. I think the video probably stopped a long time ago, and I can talk for hours on this subject, but I hope this leaves you with curiosity to explore our online course and our trainings more. And if you feel called, then please send an application and maybe attend.